Welcome back to the LarryB YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to be learning how to make this beautiful armhole princess dart blouse with a built-up neckline. You can see that the neckline is a built-up. It's like a turtle neckline with collar, but the collar is cut together with the neckline. That is why you have the neckline this high. Okay, it's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. This is something you'd like to learn. Kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so I'm cutting this directly on my fabric. You can also do this with your pattern paper. As you can see, I have marked some lines and I'm going to explain it. So here is my shoulder line, which is going to be the starting point. This is my armhole line, this is my bust point, my under bust, and this is my waistline. My actual half length is 17, added 1 inch allowance, which made it 18 inches, and I made all of them into a straight line. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark my shoulder. My shoulder is 8 inches, that's 16 divided by 2. So I have it there, and here I'm going to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. It's a turtle neckline, but it's a turtle neckline, but I'm going to be cutting the collar, kind of cutting the collar together with the main body, so it's going to look like a built-up neckline. So the neck width that I'm going to work with is 3 inches, and then the neck depth that I'm going to work with for the front is going to be 3 inches as well. And then I'll take my curved ruler and connect that into a curve. Okay, so this is my front neck curve, and then from that neck point here, I'm going to use my straight ruler to connect to the 1 inch that I came down with here for my shoulder slope. Okay, so for the armhole here, I'm just going to mark the 8 inches again so that I can have a straight line coming from my shoulder, and then from there can divide what you have here into 2, and then you come in by half an inch to mark your armhole. So here on the chest line, I'm going to take the bust measurement. The bust is 44.5 divided by 4 is going to give me around 11.25 thereabouts. So I'll just mark that here, and then with my curved ruler I'm going to try to connect my armhole curve. So you just make sure that all of this match, this point touches each other. Okay, and then we draw our nice armhole curve there. So now the next thing is to take the dart. So for the dart, the bust point, the nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches, okay, from one nipple to the other. So you're going to divide that into 2, and then I have 4 inches. So on my bust point line, I'm going to add half an inch. Remember, I'm cutting directly on my fabric, so I don't have the opportunity of adding extra allowance again, unlike pattern. So that allowance I'm going to add now. The 4 inches, I'm going to add half an inch to it, and here on my bust point, I'm going to mark 4.5 inches. Okay, so then I'll go over to the under bust line. On the under bust, I'm going to deduct half an inch from whatever I took on my bust line, and that's going to leave me with 4 inches. So if you took 4 inches here, then you have 3.5 inches here, as the case may be. So the same thing I took on my under bust is what I'm taking on my waistline, and then I'm going to take my ruler, and then I'm going to connect all of these lines together. Okay, so now is an armhole princess dart, so I need to locate where the line is going to be on my armhole area. So what I'm doing now is just marking my armhole line. I'm measuring what I have there, and I have about 10.5 inches thereabouts. So I'm dividing that into 2, and whatever it is that I have, I'm marking here. Okay, so now after marking that point there, or you can just mark like maybe 5 inches, depending on where you want the armhole line to go. You just mark that on your armhole area, and then you take your curved ruler and then you connect that to that point. So if you want the line to be higher, then you can place it at this point where we marked our initial midpoint. So it's totally up to you and what you want. So for me, I think it's fine here. So now you can see I have placed my curved ruler. I'm just coming down by like half an inch here, and then I'm going to make sure that all the curve that I'm making blend with what I have coming here. You don't want any part to be sharp. So from there now I am drawing my first line. So this is my armhole line. So the next thing now is to take your actual dart. So it's a bustier dart, so we need to create cup to have that bustier effect. So on this under bust, I'm going to take a dart of 2 inches. On my waistline, I'm taking 2 inches as well. If it's for a bigger bust, you can do 2.5 or 3 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark a straight line connecting the dart on the waistline to the dart on the under bust. So after that, again, I'm going to take my curved ruler and then connect this to my bust point. Okay, so you can see now that whatever it is that I have here is blending well with the line that I already have. I just wanted to make as bold as possible. So now that is what I have there. So the next thing now is to take a dart on my armhole area. So to the left and right of this armhole, I'm going to take that of 1/2 inch on both sides. You can also do 0.75. This is going to be a total of 1 inch, so you can do 1.5 as well. So you just share it 0.75 on both sides. So I'm taking a dart of 1/2 inch on both sides, and then I'm going to connect this back to around 1/2 inch again here. So you can use your straight ruler for this, or you can use a slightly curved ruler so that everything can blend well. So which is what I am doing here. So I'm just trying to make sure that I blend this new dart with whatever it is that I have coming before. I don't want any sharp points. So I have done this for the first one, so for the second one as well, I'm going to connect. So now this second line, I'm going to extend it a little bit so that I can make room for the 1 inch dart that I have taken here. So here you can see, and then I'm extending it beyond my armhole. So here, remember I took a dart of 1 inch. I'm going to come out here by 1 inch again, and then I'm going to redraw my armhole line. I hope you understand this. It's really simple to understand. And that is it for our armhole bustier dart. So after creating this dart, the next thing is to take our circumference measurement. I already did this for my bust point. I do not really have any shortage here like that, like just 0.25. so if you have enough, you can just add it. I'm adding the 0.25 first, and then I'm adding my seam allowance. Okay, here on my waistline, I'm going to take my waist measurement. The waist measurement is 36 inches. So I'll divide the 36 inches by 4, and that's going to give me around 9 inches thereabouts. So I'm marking here. I have 4 inches here. So these 4 inches, I'm going to remove the dart so that it's not going to cause shortage, and then I'll place the 4 inches here and start my measurements again. So I have the 9 inches here, and then I'm going to add my seam allowance. So just add enough. Remember, you're going to join them together. I'm going to turn the sides or whatever. Just add enough seam allowance that will make you do whatever it is that you want to do. So now my pattern is ready. The next thing now is to move to the neckline area to create this built up neckline that I said I want to do. Remember, I said I'm not going to be cutting my collar separately. Okay, so to create this collar now on the neckline, remember I went down 3 inches by 3 inches. So now I'm going to come up by, depending on how high you want it to be, you can do 1 inch, you can do 0.75, you can do 2 inches if you want it really high. So I'm just coming up by 1 inch here, okay, on my neckline here. On my neckline, the neck depth, I'm coming down by 1 inch, and then on the neck point here as well, you need it to be high. So I'm going to extend this line by 1 inch as well. Remember, this is my actual shoulder line, so I'm extending this by 1 inch as well. And then with my curved ruler, I'm going to connect this new neckline that I have. So here I'm connecting the new neckline, so you can see. So now we need to reconcile this new neckline. You can see now that it's standing alone. We need to reconcile it with our shoulder point that we have here, with the shoulder line that we have there. So to do this, from where my neck point stops here, I'm going to come outwards by 1/2 inch. Okay, so after coming outwards by 1/2 inch, I'm going to use a nice curve from here, and then I'm going to blend it in with what I have on my neck slope, my shoulder slope. You can use a free hand or you use a curve for this. Just make sure that you blend this in. just like I have done. Okay, so this is what I have done. I can clearly see now that I have my collar now is above my shoulder line. So that is all I need to do there. The next thing is for me to add half an inch allowance all around this to sew it, and then I can cut out my pattern. So now you can see I have added half an inch. I added on the neckline, I added here, and then I added on my shoulder points, and then linked my armhole line together with it. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut out this new pattern that I have. So after this, now we are going to go and cut our back. So for the back, it's quite simple. The only difference is that the neckline that we changed here, we're going to change it for the back as well. Remember, the collar is going to be for both the front and back, so we need to do exactly what we have done for the front at the back as well. So you can see now that the collar stands out. You can pad this with whatever it is you want. I'm just going to pad mine with a soft wadding, and I'm also adding stay to it so that I can try. I don't want anything to be pulling on my body, so I don't want a very strong wadding. So I'm padding with a soft wadding, and I'm also going to strengthen the fabric with an stay. I've cut this now, and this is what the pattern for the front is looking like now. This is what it looks like. So now I'll go ahead and cut the back. So for the back, like I said, it's quite simple. So I've drafted my back. I have several of these already on the channel. So this is my zipper allowance here. I just made a regular line from I used my nipple to nipple measurement to get this center line, and then from here I just connected it to my armhole. I just measured around 4 to 5 inches downwards from my armhole line, and then I connected it just like that. I took my round measurement, and then I connected my circumference measurement. You can see the side line there. So now the only major thing that we are doing here is the neckline alteration. So just like we did for the front as well, the neck width that I'm working with for the back is 3 inches. You can see it's 3 inches by 1 inch. That's my actual neck width for the back. So what I'm going to do now is to, from where my neck width stop at the back here, my neck depth stop at the back, I'm going to come up by 1 inch, which is going to automatically be my actual shoulder line. And then here as well on the neck width, I'm going to come up by 1 inch as well. And then I'm going to place my ruler, my curved ruler, and then connect this line just like this. Okay, so now after connecting this line here again, I'm going to come outwards by half an inch so that I can blend this line together with my shoulder line. And that is all you need to do basically. So after doing this, you add half an inch all around, just like we did for the front. Okay, so I have added my allowances. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut it out just like I did for the front. Okay, so I'm cutting the side as well. So for the armhole here, you can also extend it a little bit by 1 inch or half an inch, and then you draw your armhole. By the time you are done and you feel that you have excess, you can also trim it up, but it's just better to be on the safe side like that. So that's why I am basically adding that extra. So here I am cutting out my bodice, and then I'll cut out the dark line later. So I have cut my patterns out now, and you can see what it looks like. So this is the back as well. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and cut this on my lining. I'm using a cotton lining like I explained, and I'll cut exactly what I have here, and then I'm going to be adding interfacing to the fabric, and then I'll pad with this soft wadding. So I'll do all of this now and bring it back to show us what we have. Okay, so I have added my stay, and then my soft wording you can see, and then I ironed it to it. So you can see this is the center front and these are the two side front. So this is what it looks like on the right side. So what I'm going to do now is to go ahead and sew this together. So this is the back. For the back I did not add interfacing to it because I'm not padding the back, of course, and the Ankara is of good quality and I'm using a very good lining. I'm using a cotton lining, so I'll just go ahead and sew the back normally, and then I have cut out lining for all of them. It's a cotton lining. I'm going to sew my lining so that I can turn it out neatly. So I'll start by joining the bustier part of the blouse first before joining the other ones. So when you get to the machine, you arrange the bodice and then you place it under the machine and we'll start to sew. So when you get to the under bust, you lift the upper one up and then you sew gently. So as you're sewing, you match the upper one with the one on the lower part and you maintain the same seam allowance. Remember, we added half an inch to our bust span when we were drafting, so that we'll be able to sew this and still have the same bust span measurement that we measured. So you keep sewing till you get to the end, and when you get to the end part now, you will see that it is exactly the same. Can you see? It is exactly the same. So now we are done sewing the first one. I'll go ahead now and sew the second one. So I'm sewing the second one as well. When I get to the under bust, I'm going to lift the first one and then continue to match it with the one under. So you sew this part as well slowly. You don't have to rush it, and you maintain the same seam allowance. You continue sewing it gently until you sew to the end point. So when you get to the other side now, you see that this one as well matches. So don't forget to add whatever dart that you are taking on your armhole area. You need to extend it. Remember, we took 1 inch dart and then we extended this part by 1 inch as well. So whatever dart that you are taking there, you need to extend it by the exact same dart, so that you are not going to have any shortage by the time you want to join your dart. So what I'm going to do now is to notch the under bust for it to relax, and then I'm going to open my seam here and then iron everything. I'll put an hemming gum there so that my seam allowance can lie flat, and then my bust cup will really come out very nice the way I want it. So I'll go ahead and sew the rest. So I have ironed it. You can see how beautiful the cup is looking. This is what it looks like on the inside. You make sure you open all your seam allowances like this, so that I can have something this beautiful and neat. So for the lining as well, I have sewn my lining and I equally ironed it, just like I ironed the main bodice. So these are the back panel as well. This is the lining for the back panel. I have sewn and ironed it, and this is the main bodice for the back panel as well. You can see that my stitches are all opened. So what I'm doing next now is to go to the sewing machine, and then I'm going to place the right side of the lining against the right side of the main bodice, and then I'll go ahead and sew with the half an inch that I added for the neckline. So I'm going to sew the half an inch by for the neckline like this, just the neckline, and then I'm going to notch it and turn and iron. I'll do the same thing for the back as well. I'm going to sew the neckline of the back and the zipper area for the back. I'm going to sew it and turn as well. So that is it for the upper part. The lower part is a mermaid skirt. I'm going to film that as well and upload it on the channel. So if you don't know how to make a mermaid skirt, you can check that out. So after this now, I'll couple all of this together and bring it back to show us what it looks like. Okay, so the front and back is joined together now, and this is what we have. You can see the princess dart line that we have there, and this is what the neckline looks like. You can see that it's a higher neckline. It's like a built-up neckline. You can see the shoulder area, but it is cut together, so it's not cut separately. And this is what the full view of the blouse look like. So like I said, I'm going to be adding a skirt to mine. It's going to be a mermaid skirt, and I'm going to film it and post on the channel as well. So if you want to learn how to do that, you can check the next post. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And please note that you can decide on any neckline you want. It may not be this built-up neckline. It can be U, it can be V, it can be whatever it is that you want for your princess that bustier. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.